Hey everyone, I'm finally back in my kitchen. If you're new here, thanks for joining me. My name's Alicia and I'm a sous chef with a sweet tooth. And today we're going to be making a delicious keto white chocolate raspberry cheesecake. So let's get started. Now this keto recipe is a pretty simple transition from a regular cheesecake to keto. We were trying to figure out a dessert to make for my boyfriend's birthday, and he's very into not super sweet. He doesn't like frosting, so I didn't want to do a cake. I was debating on doing like a tart with almond crust and a raspberry filling. And then we were watching Good Mythical Morning, and they had all of Cheesecake Factory cheesecakes on their show, and the top winner was a white chocolate raspberry truffle cheesecake. So I thought, why not make that for my boyfriend? Because that's something I can make that's keto, and it's something everyone will enjoy. The hard thing was the white chocolate. I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to find a white chocolate chip that is keto. I have seen people able to find one at Walmart, and we could not find the Lily's white chocolate, but we did find another one. With the recipe I looked up online for like recreation of this cheesecake normal, they said not to use white chocolate chips because they don't melt as well. It says to use like a really nice bar of Ghirardelli white chocolate. So I'm not sure how well this white chocolate's gonna melt and make the ganache that we're supposed to kind of swirl into the batter. But either way, it's going to have the white chocolate in it. It's going to taste good. We're going to start with the crust. Now, with a keto crust, you've seen a couple other videos. I'll link my 8 dessert, 1 pan video up there. I used just keto cookies and made a cheesecake crust out of them. Now this one, I'm adding in some chopped almonds. These are not toasted or anything because we're going to be baking this crust in the oven. So I just took my little Ninja food processor and crushed up about a cup of slivered almonds. I'm going to add that into my cup of almond flour, and I just added 2 tablespoons of granular Monkfruit sweetener just to give it a little bit of sweetness. I'm just going to mix these ingredients together real quick to get the sugar distributed. I have my oven preheated at 350 degrees. I believe this is a 9-inch, it might even be a 10-inch springform pan. You can use either one. I just have it on a baking sheet with foil, and I'm gonna add 4 tablespoons melted butter. I'm gonna add this. I'm gonna give it a little stir with a spoon. See it starting to clump together? That's how you know you have enough butter in there. Just gonna spread it out evenly, and you can go up the sides a little bit too to give yourself a little edge crust. There we go, we got it. About a 1/2 inch to 1 inch up the sides. It can be uneven, it doesn't really matter. We'll just give it some character around the edges. We're gonna bake this for 8 to 10 minutes. I'm gonna spin it halfway through just to make sure it gets evenly brown on all sides. Now the next step is the raspberry jam. Now obviously we can't just buy a raspberry jam that's in a jar because there really isn't one that has decent ingredients and is sweetened with stevia and erythritol. But making jam is super simple. It's just taking your fresh or frozen raspberries, adding sugar and water, maybe a little bit of lemon juice, and then a thickener. Now we can't use cornstarch because it's super high in carbs, but that's what is typically used. You can easily just add a little bit of gelatin. I'm gonna add a little bit of arrowroot starch in place of the cornstarch. It's really not too bad on carbs. For 1 tablespoon, it's about 7 grams of carbs. Now that throughout the entire cheesecake, that's not gonna be too much. I'm gonna get this going. I got 6 ounces of fresh raspberries, and then I have 6 ounces of frozen raspberries. I'm gonna add that all into a pot with a 1/2 cup of sugar and a 1/2 cup of water. And I'm just gonna bring this to a simmer, add in a tablespoon arrowroot powder, and then I'm just gonna let it cool until we get our cheesecake batter all finished, and we're gonna swirl it into our cheesecake. So at this point with the raspberry sauce, you can leave it as is, let it cool to like room temperature for the mixing into the cheesecake batter, or you could strain it and get all the seeds out. We're only gonna use about half that in the cheesecake, and then we're gonna save the other half to like drizzle on top of the cheesecake. So we're gonna let that cool while we beat up our cheesecake ingredients. Now this is a basic cheesecake recipe. I kind of looked at the one that was online. They had cornstarch in their recipe, which obviously is a no-no for keto anyways, and it's something that you really don't need in cheesecake. I just have 3 packages of Philadelphia cream cheese here. I'm gonna use a ½ cup of granulated monk fruit sweetener. I'm gonna beat that in, and then I'm gonna add a cup of sour cream, 3 room temperature eggs. Everything should be at room temperature just so this mixes real well and you don't get a lot of clumps. And then the last thing, which is what I took kind of from the recipe online, was the white chocolate part of this. So I already heated up a 1/4 cup of heavy cream. I'm gonna add in these chocolate chips. Like I said, I'm not sure if these are gonna melt like normal white chocolate would. So I'm gonna let these sit in the hot cream. These are the ones I found, actually my boyfriend found them at Walmart. They're Bake Believe, white, no sugar added. And technically there's 0 carbs because it's 10 carbs, 3 fiber, and 7 erythritol for a tablespoon. But I'm gonna try to get this melted and mixed together. I might have to pop this in the microwave again. You can also make your own white chocolate, which is what I'm working on. I've been working on it for quite a while, trying to get the right ratio of cocoa butter with the right kind of milk powder or protein powder, but I'm not quite there yet, but I'm sure you'll see those videos in the future. I'm gonna pop this at 50% power into the microwave, 30-second intervals, and try to get this kind of creamy. We'll see what happens. While that's going, I'm just gonna beat up my cream cheese and sugar. There you go, it's coming together. Not too bad. Another maybe 10 seconds in the microwave, and it should be basically a nice ganache that we can swirl into our cheesecake batter. Probably needed a bigger bowl. 10 seconds was even too much. This is what happens when you overheat white chocolate. White chocolate is very temperamental. So I'm gonna add a little tiny bit of cream to this and try to get it back to like a creamy consistency. So I just added another splash of heavy cream and that brought it back. That's a trick if you ever have this happen to you. If you're making a ganache, if you are just heating chocolate to melt, to cover things, and that happens, you can always add a little bit of coconut oil and that'll make it creamy again. So we're gonna keep that like that. We might have to blast it for 5 seconds, not 10, obviously, that was too much when we go to mix it in. I'm gonna add in 1 egg at a time. Hopefully this doesn't go everywhere. That's egg number 2 in there. I'm gonna give it a scrape down because we got some egg and cream cheese that hasn't been mixed together. Always want to scrape down your bowl in between whisking. Here I'm gonna scrape down and scrape the bottom. Make sure there's no cream cheese stuck down there. There was a little bit of chunks down there. So the last thing to add is our sour cream and a little bit of vanilla extract. Our crust is out of the oven, by the way, and cooled right there. We got a nice smooth batter. Then it says in the directions for the imitation Cheesecake Factory cheesecake to just mix in the white chocolate with a rubber spatula. So see what this consistency is like. See, it's really thick now because it cooled a little bit. So I'm gonna put it in the microwave, maybe even less than 50% power, maybe 30, and do 10 seconds. Okay, so I did 13 seconds on 30% power. Hopefully this will swirl into this cheesecake batter. And this is the hardest part about making it keto. This cheesecake batter is easy to make. See if we can get it in there. It said don't over mix. So I think you kind of want your streaks of white chocolate in there. With having the stevia sweetened, we might just get clumps of white chocolate, but I'm sure it'll still taste good, right? Okay, I think that's good. I can't really see too much. I just see chunkers of white chocolate. So now it's time to assemble. Now I did put half of the raspberry sauce in the refrigerator because I realized it was going to be too hot. Still kind of is warm, so I'm going to keep it in there. I just gave it a stir. Okay, so while that's chilling, we'll get half of this mixture into the cheesecake. Just eyeball it. Spread it out. Now I also saw on Headbanger's Kitchen, they made one where they took half the batter and put the blackberry sauce in it, so it made it like purple, and you could swirl it into the white part of the cheesecake. That would also be cool to do. So it says just a dollop of this. I'm just gonna swirl it in. Actually, I think it's at a half cup in the recipe online anyways. See how it looks. You take a knife or something and swirl it in. While it's baking, I will figure out the macros and so when I come back, I can let you know. I've been testing a lot of baking recipes. I just have not gotten anything solid yet that I want to make a video with. I've been testing cakes and cream puffs, all sorts of stuff. Now that my house is sold and we'll be moving in less than a month, back to recipe testing for a little bit anyways. So this is going into the oven 40 to 45 minutes. And we're gonna bake it until the edges are set and it's just a little bit jiggly in the middle. Definitely turning halfway through to make sure this bakes evenly. We'll be back in 40 to 45 minutes to see how it turns out. Fortunately, I'm not gonna be able to try it today because it has to cool for several hours and I have to go to work. So I will probably be back tomorrow to try it. So our cheesecake is out of the oven. See right here? It's a little jiggly in the middle. I hope it is baked enough. I actually went 10 minutes over the recommended 40 to 45 minutes. I'm wondering if it's because it's a 9-inch spring form instead of a 10, so it's a little bit thicker. I let it go as long as I thought I could. The edges are set and getting brown. We're gonna be popping this in the refrigerator once it cools, and it needs to refrigerate for at least 24 hours. So I will be back then. I'll let you know how it tastes. We got our finished cheesecake here. I let it cool at room temperature for several hours, and then I wrapped it in plastic wrap and tin foil. I just used the tin foil that we had on our pan already. That way we didn't have to waste all that tin foil. Now this cheesecake isn't as smooth as a normal cheesecake would be. I think it's because of that white chocolate that we used, and it was a little bit more clumpy and not as smooth and nice as like a really expensive white chocolate. But as you can see, there's like a little cracking on the top, which my pastry chef did tell me that if you turn off the oven and just leave this in the oven for several hours to cool down, that it won't crack. I didn't have time to try that, but it's a little tip if you want to try that at home. Another tip is if you want to cover that up, I'm not going to put this in the macros down below in the recipe. To cover this up, you can make a little sweet sour cream little frosting for the top. It'll be a nice little decoration for the top of this cheesecake. I'm not even going to measure. I'm just going to take a couple spoonfuls of sour cream. I am going to add a couple drops of a stevia extract. You can use any kind of sugar or extract you want. I'm also going to add a splash of vanilla extract to this just to give it some flavor. You can also use the vanilla stevia, which I do have some of that too. I'm just going to stir this up and we're going to spread this over the cheesecake. And it'll cover that crack up and make a nice finish to it. Okay, so it's just a little sour cream glaze we'll put on it. Just plop it right in the middle of the cheesecake. And take my offset spatula and just spread it out. There you go. And since I did almonds for this crust, I thought it'd be a nice touch to sprinkle some toasted almonds on top. I just took my slivered almonds and just threw them in a dry pan with no oil on the stovetop and just sauteed them for a couple of minutes. I'll insert a clip. Biggest thing is you don't want to be on too high of heat, and I was a little impatient, so I turned it up and it goes really fast. And then you want to make sure you have a bowl ready to pour it right into so that they don't go from toasted to burned. So that's what you want, a nice golden brown on your almonds. I'm just going to sprinkle this over the sour cream on top. Like I said, this is all just extra, not going to be in the macros down there. I just wanted it to look really nice for my boyfriend's birthday. Now I'm going to show you the really tricky part is unmolding this thing. This is a non-stick springform pan, but I still want to run a spatula around the edge. I'm going to actually heat it up a little bit because this is straight out of the refrigerator. So I think it'll help a little bit. See, it ran smoothly for a little while because it was hot. Also keep a towel nearby to wipe off your spatula if it gets junk on it. You don't want to put that back into your cheesecake. There we go, we are all the way around. Now the moment of truth. Let's hope that it comes out. Looks good. Got that crust going all the way up. You can see the raspberry in there. Looks delicious. Can't wait to cut into it. So I wasn't gonna cut into it till my boyfriend's birthday, but because we're having a little family get together, I just figured it'd be easier to bring it over already sliced, and then that way you can meet my boyfriend and he can try it right now. So I'm gonna get cutting into this. If you cut this into 16 slices, it's about 5 grams of net carbs if you don't use any of the extra stuff, any of the extra raspberry sauce and not this topping. So we got everything ready to cut our cheesecake. I showed you in the one video, I'll link it above, link over on this side, the ice cream pie. It's always good to have a hot knife, especially cheesecake gets very messy. When you try to drag a knife through it, you'll have all the gunk on your knife and you try to cut it again and it'll just be all not nice looking. I'm also gonna have a towel to wipe my knife off in between cuts. And you don't want all this water on your cheesecake either. So we're gonna cut this into 16, like I said. So we're just gonna score it in half so that we know where half is. And then you turn it and you do it in half again. So there's 4 there, and then cutting it into 8. You cut that in half again, and then, so that's 8 right there, and then you're gonna cut it one more time in all those spaces. This is exactly what we would do at work, which we have our pumpkin cheesecake on the menu right now. I'm gonna start with just 1 slice down. I'm not gonna do all the way across just yet. 1 nice slice. You can also move the almonds out of your way if they're really in there. Like I said in my last video also, I do not have a pie server. First piece is always not the prettiest also. There you go. We got a nice line of raspberry in between. I'd say that is a pretty successful cheesecake. So this is an optional thing. We only used a 1/2 cup of raspberry jam in the middle of this. So that's what I put down in the macros below. But this is like an extra for other people that want to have some extra raspberry on top. Pour it right over the middle. That looks delicious. Now it's time to taste. So it's only right that I let my boyfriend Adam try this with me because technically it is his birthday cake. So we're gonna welcome my boyfriend in his dorky hat.
Hi, everybody.
And we're gonna try this together. All right, grab your fork, get a bite. Happy birthday, baby.
Ding it and sink it. Oh. The addition of the sour cream.
Yeah. Gives it a little bit.
Not a tang almost.
Yeah. It's a little bit of a tang from the sour cream. You can polish this whole piece off.
Yeah, I want that crusty
outside. Turned out really good. Still really soft in the middle and more dense on the outside.
Like that, a bit of a crunch.
It is good.
Yeah. Literally for everyone.
Yeah. No one would know it's keto. So he's going to finish this. But I'll hopefully be back soon. I hope you guys enjoy this video. Please hit that subscribe button down there. If you do, I'll be coming out with many more videos. Hopefully in my new house soon. Our new house soon. All right, I'll see you guys later. Bye.
Bye.